Hello, friends and possibly foes, and welcome to your follow along workout. Now, despite workout being in the name, this is going to be pretty chill, dare I say, boring, because there's a reason for this. Because, one, you're beginning at this, so we have to practice and make it not suck. Because if it doesn't suck, then you'll want to come back and do it again. If it does suck, you're never going to want to do it again. Reasonably so, because why would we want to do things that are crappy? So, with that in mind, we're not going to worry about making anything really intense or crazy today. The only thing that we're really trying to do is get tuned in with your body, find different muscles, make them turn on when you intend to have them turn on, and ideally, not have anything be painful and weird. I feel like that's a pretty doable thing, so we're going to do it together. You're not going to need too much equipment for this. We will be lying on our back for a little while, so if you need anything to support your head, like a pillow, or anything under your low back, like a towel, you can definitely have that. We will also need a long resistance band. If you have like one of the ones that's a big long loop, that's fine, but this is one I have, so it's one we're going to go with. And a yoga block if you have it, and if you don't have it, we need something of a similar size that you can use and that can be moved around pretty easily, so it's pretty light. I've also used like a Nalgene bottle, one of the big water bottles for this. We'll get there when we get there. Don't worry about it. If you don't have this, don't sweat it. Okay. We're going to begin laying on our backs. So to the ground with us. And now we're going to think about that thing that we visited in our warm up, which is our supine cat-cow, the little tilt and rock of our pelvis. Because the first thing that we're going to do, the first exercise, is called a dead bug. And the purpose of the dead bug is to get the front of our core working and keep our low back from trying to swoop in and help. So to do this, we're going to use that tilt of the pelvis that we were messing with before. You're going to think about taking your tailbone, tucking it under you a little bit so your low back is nice and long. Some people, like me, might find that when they do this, their low back presses really nicely into the ground and it's very comfy and they can find that position really easily. Other people might have more of an arch, so when they tuck, they might still be pretty high. That's okay. So don't worry about getting your low back into the ground. So you're going to take your hands, you're going to slide them underneath your back on either side of your spine, just above your hips. And you're going to take that little tuck of the tailbone, maybe press your low back into your hands a little bit. And then when you do that, I want you to think about tensing the front of your belly, like if somebody was going to come up and poke you in the stomach. Let's just find that a few times. So we're going to tuck, we're going to brace the front of your core, and then you're going to release. And then tuck, squeeze the front of your core, and release. Very nice. So this is going to be our base movement. And the purpose of this, what we're trying to practice right now, is getting our trunk to be nice and stiff and stable. We don't want to worry. We're going to do some stuff where we're going to be lifting our arms and lifting our legs. And I don't want you to worry about trying to follow along with a specific variation. All I want you to worry about is getting your hips to your shoulders nice and stiff and stable. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and brace that front of our belly. So we're going to do our little tuck, squeeze our core. Then we're going to lift our hands up so our fingers are reaching toward the ceiling. And then when we reach up with our hands, you might notice that you want to flop out of this. And if that happened to you, no worries. Just do that tuck and brace, squeeze, and then find that position in your core. Now, if this feels good, you're working like crazy, your core is being quivery and having fun, then you'll go ahead and stop here and kind of release and enter this a few times. But if you're like, nope, this feels good and I want to keep going, then great, we're going to do that. So from here, remembering that we're trying to keep our core really stiff and braced, you're going to go ahead and drop one hand down toward the ground. It doesn't need to reach it all the way there. And then you're going to come back up. And then you're going to switch over to the other side. Drop that hand down and come back up. Now, it's very easy when we drop our hand back to totally lose our core. We arch and we lift our ribs as we come back, especially if you have shoulder mobility issues, that might happen. So remember, we're trying to stay nice and stiff from our hips to our shoulders. So you're trying to brace, extend that hand, and then coming back without moving at your core at all. That's all we're practicing here. And we're just going to go ahead and swap that from side to side, nice and gently in your own time. Now, I don't want you to worry about tapping the ground because that is sort of irrelevant. All we're trying to do is keep our core stiff while we move our arms. If you're in the mood for a little bit extra and you want to add on, you're going to go ahead and keep that same brace of your core. Hands are lifted, but now we're going to pick our feet up and our legs up so that our legs are at 90 degrees. This is going to be a little bit more intense on the front of your thigh too. So if you feel that turn on or you need a break at some point, that's totally fine. Now with our legs up, same thing, extend the hand, come back, extend the hand, keep the core, and come back. Very nice. And now we're just going to stay here because this is less important that we're doing a particular variation and more important that we're really feeling our core. So I really want you to just focus on almost crunching into the front of your stomach and really trying to feel that work. And let's go ahead and extend our arms for 2 more times on each side. Good, last one. Good, now you're gonna go ahead and release out of that. Now you might notice that your core started to work quite a bit, which is awesome. That's exactly what you want. You might have also noticed that at some point your low back might have activated, and that's okay. That happens sometimes. And all we're gonna do is just practice. We're gonna continually come back and practice that because sometimes that can mean that you're falling out of the form. So if you're up in that position, your arm comes back and then your back arches, you might lose that brace of the core and then have your low back activate. If that's the case, no worries. Just come back to that crunched position, that tucked and braced position, and then see if that fixes it. If it doesn't, and no matter what you do, your low back was activating, that probably just means that you worked the muscles as much as they could work, your core got tired, and then so other things came in to try and help and take over, more or less. So if that's you, then no worries. That just means that you did a good job keeping your core working enough that you got it tired, so it needed a break. So when you notice that the muscles other than, like once you can't get back into the muscles you're trying to work, that's a good indicator that you're done and you need to take a rest. So next, we're going to use our dead bug to build into our next exercise, which is called a glute bridge. Now, a glute bridge, like the name implies, involves your glutes, which are your butt muscles. So what it looks like is you're going to be lifting your hips up into the air, squeezing, holding, and coming back down. Now, a few things that we want to do to make sure that we're doing this as best as we can is we're going to first get our dead bug core going. So little tuck of the tailbone, brace the front belly. You're going to take your feet sort of close to your hips, not super close, but comfortable distance. Tuck your tailbone, brace your core, press into your feet, bring your hips up. I don't care how high you get. There's not a lot of movement here. If you're really, really high like this, your back is probably going to hurt. And you're not actually going to be able to use your butt muscles to help you extend your hips. So if you see here, I have a nice straight line from my knees to my hips to my shoulders. That's what we're looking for. So we'll come back down and then same thing. We tuck and then we lift and then we hold and we come back down. And when we do this, we're kind of thinking about that same stiff feeling in our trunk. So not trying to roll our way up and roll our way down, but rather keeping everything nice and stable from your hips to your shoulders. Now, when you're doing this, you might notice that the top of your legs are working really, really hard. If that's the case, go ahead and walk your feet away from you just a hair and then rock your weight into your heels a little bit and then see if that helps. But if you are noticing that the front of your legs aren't working, but the back of your legs are, go ahead and take your feet a little bit closer to your hips and a tiny bit closer to each other. So you scooch them together, and that can sometimes help you feel it more in your glutes specifically. We want to have as much work as possible in the back of our hips, and then as little as possible in the fronts and backs of our legs. And your hands can be wherever. I'm just going to lift my hands so that we can, you can see what I'm doing. Perfect. Let's do one more. Very nice. And then we'll come out of that, sit up for a second, take a break, grab some water, and then we're going to practice those both one more time. So I'm going to go through it a little bit faster this time. And if you're feeling a little bit lost, that's okay. Part of learning how to do the very specific nitpicky muscle activation exercises is they take some practice. So all we're going to do is practice. Let's go ahead and lay down on your back, and we're going to find our dead bug. So just starting with the tuck your tailbone, brace your core. Once your core is braced, hands are going to come up. You might stay here and just focus on that brace, or you'll extend your arms nice and slow, making sure that you're keeping your ribs down, your tailbone tucked, and the front of your core braced. And when I say ribs down, I mean press your rib cage toward the ground. If the hip thing is confusing you, tucking your ribs usually helps. Good. And if you want to lift the knees, you can feel free. And then whenever you're having trouble getting the muscles to work that you're intending to, you can go ahead and take a break. And let's do 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lovely. Go ahead and release out of that. Next, let's go back into our glute bridge. Wiggles out before you start if you need it. And then we're going to go ahead and start with tucking your tailbone, brace of your core, hips come up, squeeze your butt at the top, and then come back down. I'll get my hands out of the way so you can see the tuck and lift and down. So keep going on your own time. And if this one is a little confusing, welcome to the club. And then play with that position of your feet. If you're feeling a lot of the tops of your thighs, bring your feet a little further away and press into your heels. If you're feeling a lot of the backs of your legs, bring your feet a little closer to you. You can try having your feet a little closer together or a little farther apart. Don't be afraid to experiment a little bit to try and find what position works for you the best. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, and good form is what lets you move well and not injure yourself. So that might look a little bit different from person to person. Let's do 3 more. That's 3 and 2 and 1. Lovely. Go ahead and give yourself a break from that. Maybe bring your knees up, rock a little side to side. The next thing we're going to do is still on the ground. So you're going to go ahead and grab your yoga block. If you don't have a yoga block, you can grab a water bottle, maybe a book might work. Basically something that's just sort of yoga block shaped. You're going to take your feet onto the ground in that same starting position as we did with our glute bridge. You're going to take your block and you're going to put it in between your knees. So from here, we're going to be working on our inner thighs a little bit. So we're going to think about taking our hips to that same tiny little tuck position, bringing your ribs down. Now we're going to work on squeezing the block with our knees. So here, I want you to do a little squeeze, hold, release, squeeze, hold, and release. It's not a big movement, teeny, teeny, tiny. And here, it's really easy for the outsides of your legs and your thighs to be like, I got this, I'll help, and push your knees in. So instead, I want you to think about using the muscles on the insides of your thighs to pull your knees into the block and then release. And we're just practicing turning on the muscle that we're trying to have work here, which is our inner thigh. And we're going to squeeze and release several more times. And you might notice one side working a little harder than the other. If that's the case, that's pretty normal, but try and equalize it. So if one side feels like it's not working as much, maybe try and pull it into the block a little bit more. Let's do 3 more. And last one. Good. Go ahead and release that. Set your block to the side, and then next we're going to go ahead and sit up. So we're now going to give our well-deserving core and lower body a break, and we're going to work on an upper body thing. So here, if you get kind of tight in the hamstrings when you're sitting on the ground like this, and you're very feeling kind of crunched, I want you to take your block, and if you don't have a block, you can use a pillow or something like that, and sit on top of it and fall off of it like I just did, which is always so purposeful of me. Anyway, because we want to be able to comfortably have your legs extended out in front of you. Your knees can be a little bit bent, but sometimes the block will just make this feel a lot easier and less stupid. So we're going to take our long band. We're going to grab it end to end, long part of the ends. Then we're going to toss this band over our feet. We're going to kind of catch it with the middle of our foot. If you have a loop band, you can use your judgment whether or not you should do 1 loop or 2. All right, so here, now we're going to sit up tall. We're going to roll our shoulders back and down a little bit like when we were doing our chest stretch. And then we're going to think about using our muscles in our mid-back to pull our hands back toward our hips. So I almost want you to think about squeezing your shoulder blades together, and your arms might be working too, but I want you to keep most of the work, most of the pull is actually coming from your back. Your arms are just going to be along for the ride. And we'll squeeze and release and draw back and release. And if you're noticing that you're feeling a lot of the front of your shoulders, check that your hands aren't really high up by your ribs. Bring them lower down, more to your hips instead. And let's do 3 more. And then we're going to go ahead and release that. And then we go back to the ground for our squeezes. So go ahead and do that. We take our block in between the knees. We're going to go ahead and think about using those inner thighs to pull your knees into the block. We squeeze and release and take it away. And you might notice that on the second round, things might be feeling a little bit better. And if that's the case, awesome. Sometimes you might need a few more rounds of practice, maybe visit this over a few days before this starts to kind of make sense and feel really good. And that's fine. Because what we're doing is we're practicing. And all this is an opportunity to practice doing things that are helpful for you. Especially when we're trying to deal with chronic pain or chronic illness. Our bodies are very willing to try and just get things done. And it doesn't matter whether or not it's in a helpful way. If it needs to get done, it'll get done. So part of what we're doing right now, and let's do about 5 more. Part of what we're doing right now is we're learning how to turn on the muscles that we intend so that when we need to use them for exercise or everyday life, we can do that. And that's where we spend a lot of time doing the finicky, boring stuff. Last one. And then we'll sit up. Because if we spend a lot of time on the finicky, boring foundational things, that's what lets you do a lot of cool, strong girl person shit later. I said that weird. Lets you do a lot of strong people stuff later. Yeah. Nailing it. All right. You're going to go ahead and take the band, swing around the feet, Sit up tall, roll your shoulders back and down, and then think about shoulder blades, squeeze your shoulder blades together, hands come back, pulling from your back. Row, row, row your boat. Good. And if this feels good, you can keep going with that. If you kind of feel like everything is working other than your back muscles, that's a-okay. If that's you, you're going to let the band go just like I did. You're going to take your arms out and then you're going to do some squeezes where we're drawing our elbows back like we're trying to touch them behind us. And as you do that, you're going to squeeze your shoulder blades together, keeping your shoulders down away from your ears, thinking about the middle of your back, working to pull your shoulders together. If we're going too high, then we're going to get up into our headache muscles where our shoulder meets our neck. And that's, where our shoulder meets our neck. And that's not fun because that's where the headaches live. So we're keeping those nice low squeezes, and I'll sometimes like sort of almost reach out, draw back. It helps me, I don't know why. And we're doing it squeeze, 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 and it's so fun and we love it. And even if you're very strong, you'll notice that after a while, your mid-back starts to get tired because these are all the muscles that don't like to work. So we have to go in and help them remember how. Force them to join the group project, if you will. Good, let's do like 3 more. And last one. Hooray! You've made it. You can take this guy, set it to the side, unless you want to remain sitting on it. And then we're gonna just take a little cool down. So you're just gonna roll forward, slumping, chin to your chest, and then inhale, lift. Chest lifts toward the ceiling. You can take your hands behind you if that's comfortable. And then exhale, we're gonna roll forward. And inhale, we roll up. And last time, forward. And back. Good. Now you're just gonna go ahead and take your chin to your chest, roll your head a little bit from side to side. And if this cross-legged position isn't super comfortable, feel free to still sit on the block. Don't worry about it. Good. All right. Take any other little stretches or wiggles as you feel like they're needed. And excellent job today. Thank you for being here and practicing with me, and I will talk to you soon.